Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, marketing team. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, Jolene, we can
Loud
hear you.
and clear, as usual. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. Catherine, you can take down your screen for us. Thank you. We always start on time here at VDM Attorneys. I am known to be punctual. I know that other people will follow us as we go along, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, everyone. I'm Jolene Wasserman. I'm from VDM Attorneys. I head up the Community Scheme and Compliance Department. Our office is in Morningside and Sandton. If you saw that video, this is our new offices. We moved in on the 1st of March. We have started this law firm last year, and we were 4 partners when we started and a few employees, and we grew to over 50 employees, and we are still expanding, all because we have awesome clients, we are dedicated, and we are passionate about the property industry in South Africa. And me, everybody knows, I am passionate about the community scheme industry in South Africa. But today I'm going to have a strict talk with all of us. Yes, I also live in a block, a community scheme. So I'm going to talk to us. You either bought into a scheme, you're a resident in a scheme, or it's an investment property, or you're a managing agent, or you're a trustee. This is for you. We are going to discuss the roles and responsibilities of trustees and the managing agent. The meeting is recorded. We are going to share the slides with all of you. If you would like to ask some questions, can you please send it in the chat? I am going to collate all the questions afterwards. I'm going to provide question, answer, the legislation provision or the legislative provision of it, and then collate it in a table format. And our marketing team is going to send that to you. I see there's 2 hands. Can you please lower your hand? And then you can, Jolene, you are breaking up. I am going to switch off my video when I present. So I do apologize for that. I am going to start sharing my presentation now. You need to tell me, ladies and gentlemen, if you can see it. Can you all see it? Is it full screen? Good. Then I am going to start. I hope that you all can hear me loud and proudly. The marketing team is at the back end. When you experience any sort of a problem, our IT department is on site. We are going to assist you, but I am going to start this presentation. And I would like you and myself to think about what I'm going to say. We're not going to advise on the provisions of the law, reading the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act, reading the CSOS Act and regulations. We are going to look at practical examples. What's the problem and how are we going to fix it right here today? That's what we're going to look at, ladies and gentlemen. So my camera is currently off because I am flighting my presentation, and I call it the governance, reckoning, trustees and managing agents, and the role and responsibility of each of these individuals. But don't think I'm only talking to trustees and managing agents today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking to you, the owner. I'm talking to you, the tenant, also. So let's start. And I'm going to start by saying something very, very uncomfortable. And I often say this, and everybody says this. I will never be a trustee. And you know what? They are right. It's thankless. It's unpaid. You get criticized constantly. And when do you get appreciated? almost never. Do you relate to this? Does this resonate with you? I think it's one of the only jobs in South Africa where you don't get paid, you get blamed all the time, and people email or call you 11 o'clock at night and say there's a leaking tap. But here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. If no one wants to do this job, being a trustee, what suffers? Your investment at the end of the day. And that's exactly where are we at an industry. We are a non-compliant industry. We keep saying we have a dispute problem. CSOS is overwhelmed. The court roll is overwhelmed. The courts are overwhelmed. Schemes are in a crisis. No, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a dispute problem. We have a preventative failure. That's what we have in our country. And this is the story I often get. And I've been called in for many, many community schemes like this. I was instructed by a scheme to assist. It was in a prime location, high value. Nothing dramatic happened in the scheme. There was no scandal. There was no theft. It was just small, little decisions day by day. For instance, I'm going to give you an example. Yes?
Can you please make your slides full screen, please?
Oh, I thought I did. I apologize. Is it now full screen?
Not at the moment. We see a background.
Is it now full screen?
No, you'll have to share your screen once again.
Apologies for that. Can you see it now?
Just click on slideshow and then full screen. Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Okay, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I've never been an expert with the IT. So where was I at? Yes, I assisted a scheme and nothing dramatic happened. It was small decisions and the levies were not being chased. The maintenance were delayed. I'm going to give you examples of that later on. The meetings were poorly attended. And over a period of 5 years, that scheme lost millions in value. So there wasn't theft. There was no criminal activity. Well, there was not because of a crime. It's because of inaction. Inaction by owners, inaction by trustees at the end of the day. And I've listed it here. Trustees misunderstand fiduciary duty, and we're going to talk about that. Managing agents not empowered to escalate. Owners don't understand statutory remedies. Compliance treated as paperwork. And governance becomes reactive. And that's what we're going to talk about. And everybody knows me, is that I'm not a big fan of litigation. Litigation is the result of prevention failures in a scheme at the end of the day. We want to prevent litigation. We want to prevent that you come to Jolene as an attorney afterwards to say, yes, Jolene, but we have this problem. Let's be reactive. Let's be proactive in our community schemes. And that's what we're going to discuss at the end of the day. Because if you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, the most dangerous thing in a community scheme is not bad decisions. There's sometimes no decisions at all. So we don't fix problems early on in our community schemes. We wait. We hope someone else will resolve the problem. Or we hold meetings, endless meetings, and nothing gets fixed. And you will agree that this is not the ideal situation, just to call meetings and nothing gets resolved because nobody wants to make a decision. This is what I call the governance failure cascade. Think about it. Levies go unpaid. There's arrears. No one's tackling the arrears. There's no money in the reserve fund, or we just don't action the maintenance item. Insurance are outdated. We don't do our replacement value every 3 years. We don't know if we covered, if there's theft by an employee or trustee. Meetings improperly convened. Nobody actually attends the meetings. Governance failure, I said there in red, asset destruction. So let's talk about this. And this is how I think schemes collapse in our country. Trustees say, how many times have you heard this? Shame, Jolene can't pay a levy, or Jolene doesn't want to pay a levies, but we know she's a difficult owner, so let's just leave her. Let's just work with the people that we can work with. Or we leave it. We don't tackle it within 90 days. Or maintenance gets postponed. That waterproofing project, that paint project that we were speaking about for months and months, we leave it. We just say, we don't have the money now because no one is paying their levies. And I'm giving you examples now of real life situations and challenges we face within our body corporates. Now you can imagine all these problems and challenges I've mentioned. There's no money, there's no reserves, there's angry owners, there's legal disputes, and suddenly we are all looking for someone to blame. Who is accountable? Who is to blame in our scheme? And I think that sounds familiar because that's what we often get and what we often unfortunately deal with as attorneys. So let's look at this table. I want you to look at this table in front of you. The trustees' failure equal consequences. Every failure that you see here has a consequence. So let's look at it. There's no 10-year maintenance plan. Reserve non-compliance, no levy action, cash flow collapse. Without levies, we can't pay our bills in the body corporate. No insurance valuation, repudiated claims by the insurer. No quorum at annual general meetings, but we want to impose a levy increase. Selective enforcement. CISOs can turn that around in an order. No poppy compliance. Ignoring the managing agent's advice at the end of the day. Litigation escalation. I want to say this out loud to you, ladies and gentlemen. Being a trustee is not a favor. Let's be clear. It's a legal responsibility. You don't get to say, yes, I'm Jolene, I'm only a volunteer. The law doesn't recognize that category and say you're only a volunteer. You must act in good faith. You must act in the best interest of your scheme. Exercise reasonable care and skill. Avoid conflicts of interest. Disclose personal interest. If Jolene is an attorney, but she's also a trustee, the body corporate can conduct business with my law firm, VDM attorneys, but I must disclose it, my personal interest. And I cannot vote if my scheme is on the lookout for a new set of attorneys. I can't influence my fellow board members to say, you must go with VDM attorneys or else. No, I can declare it. And I cannot vote for it. So please keep that in mind. And I will talk about what my research is doing in terms of the professionalization of scheme executives later on within the presentation. Apply funds as per the approved budget. The members approved the budget at the annual general meeting. Enforce the rules consistently. Not because you don't like Jolene, you must give her 10,000 Rand fine, but Ansuet you do like, so she doesn't get a fine. It's not favoritism in a community scheme. Apply the rules consistently and protect the financial stability of the scheme. Let me ask you a tough question. How many of you have actually read the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act? Certain provisions, let me just call one provision out, Section 8 of the Act, and that talks about our fiduciary duty as trustees. And think about this. We have trustees running multi-million rand assets without fully understanding the legal duty. And I will get to the owners later. Remember, I've only started with the trustees now. I'm not just talking to the trustees here. Let's look at the trustees' functions. These are non-negotiable. You convene your meetings, ensure quorum required is, compliant budget, apply reserve fund formula correctly, maintain separate bank accounts for your administrative and reserve fund accounts, approve the levy rolls, know what's going on with the age analysis in your scheme, monitor those arrears and authorize legal recovery either through a court of law or the CISOS. Ensure a compliant 10-year maintenance plan. I've seen maintenance plans with 4 items on, then the block has got 400 units. Draft the maintenance plan. There's companies doing it. You can even have a walk around within your community scheme and see, oh, the paint is chipping. Oh, I think there's rising damp. Oh, is that a structural crack or just a crack? We don't have to be experts just to open our eyes and see what's going on within our scheme. Ensure the replacement valuations are current. Ask your insurance broker. If you have a managing agent, ask your managing agent. Appoint and oversee service providers. Do your due diligence. Do not appoint Jolene's painting services. I've charged you 100,000 rand to paint the entire complex. You've not obtained references. You've not looked at comments online, Google reviews, Hello Peter reviews, Facebook reviews. Is Jolene a shoddy contractor? Can she do the painting? Has she done other painting projects? Do your due diligence when you appoint the service providers. Approve and record the resolutions properly. And then, of course, ensure regulatory compliance. These are types of examples we often get. I'm not going to sign the annual financial statements. As Jolene, the trustee, I refuse. Well, you can't. You cannot say you won't sign the annual financial statements. That's not a power move. That's a delay tactic with consequences. You may expose all of us as trustees to personal liability. Oh, the other one, well, our managing agent will handle it. Our managing agent makes all the decisions. They must decide for us. Managing agents implement trustees' decisions. They cannot override, vote, or replace the trustees. I am of the opinion, and my mind will not be changed about this, honest, good, law-abiding managing agents out there. Get to know them. Get them involved in your scheme. It's invaluable to have an excellent managing agent on board. And that managing agent, I will get to managing agents, must keep on reminding you to do your job. It's important that they do that, but there's good managing agents out there, ladies and gentlemen. There's reputable companies out there. Use them. Or we can have a draconian chair lady like Jolene or a trustee. Everyone must follow me. If I do not agree as a member of the board, as a trustee, then the decision won't stand. The majority, newsflash, decides the decisions and they are binding. My disapproval is recorded. It's not decisive. I cannot veto a lawful decision by my fellow trustees. It's majority. Remember that. No one is above the law and not one trustee is more above the law than the other. Or the other myth we have. Owners can't touch us. We can do whatever we want as the trustees and the owners must follow us. That's not so. And we're going to look at remedies. Owners are not helpless. Remember, I'm being strict with trustees now in this part of my presentation. And we'll talk about the owners holding 25% of the total value can request a meeting. Let's get to the managing agents then. And I've said this so many times and there's no excuse for it. Let's start with myself. I'm not a managing agent. I'm an attorney. And I have to have a fidelity fund certificate from the law from the Legal Practice Council, the LPC. If I don't have a Fidelity Fund certificate, I'm not allowed to practice and you shouldn't use me. So I will gladly send you my Fidelity Fund certificate and my firm's Fidelity Fund certificate. So why would you appoint me as your attorney, and I have an FFC, but you don't care whether your managing agent's got an FFC or not? If they steal the money, their regulators, the property practitioners, regulatory authority is not going to pay out your scheme. They cannot produce the estate agent category FFC. They must be in the managing agent category. No FFC, they cannot manage your scheme. So ask your managing agent today and your portfolio manager, where is your Fidelity Fund certificate? I call them, and there's excellent managing agents out there, the professional managing agent. I'm very passionate about it. I can think they can make our lives so much easier. They play an administrative and a secretarial role. They know, they understand the law. Well, the good managing agents understand that. They understand how to guide. They understand how to run meetings or to organize the meetings for us in order to count the quorum, to draft the resolutions. It can be absolutely wonderful to have an excellent managing agent on board. So please, do you have a good managing agent on board? Are they assisting your scheme or are they derailing your scheme? Are they a disabler or are they an enabler in your body corporate? Those are the questions you must go and ask yourself and answer them. Head-to-head, trustees versus managing agents. I'm not going to read it for you. You can see what is the role of a trustee is to make the decisions. Obviously, they can make limited decisions. The owners make the majority of decisions, and that managing agent implements and guides and advise at the end of the day. And that's for all things, whether we're talking about the budget, where we're talking about managing the fund, we're talking about the levies, we're talking about the reserves, we're talking about insurance. How many schemes in this country are not adequately insured? Do you even know what you're insured for at the end of the day? Do you know the amount? Can you tell me right now, if I ask you, do you know how much you've got in your reserve fund? Right now, do you know how much you got in your administrative fund? Can you pay your day-to-day expenses as a body corporate? Trustees, can you answer that to me right now when I ask you? Think about it. And then we love to make rules as owners that are either unconstitutional or undesirable. And now I'm going over to owners. I've done talking about trustees now. So we implement fine and penalties as we deem fit. Now, the CSOS has got a practice directive consolidated that prohibits certain undesirable, unconstitutional rules. Now that you can see for yourself. We cannot evict the tenant. If Jolene is the tenant and Cor is the landlord, he cannot evict me. It's unconstitutional and you cannot have that in your rules. Water disconnections is a favorite one. The local authority can, but we can't disconnect Jolene's water if she is in arrears with her levies. Rule enforcement, it's not always done consistently or fairly. Domestic workers we discriminate against, or we make bizarre rules about eating on common property, or you're not allowed to eat on common property. Some more rules. Interest. Question we often get asked, cannot exceed the maximum rates under the National Credit Act. Short-term rentals, you can't restrict who I'm going to use. I just gave an example like Airbnb there. Discrimination, mortgage disclosure, where Jolene's bond is at. Trustees must maintain records of all pipe and utility locations. I know you're going to say, but Jolene, where are we going to find these things? We all know, unfortunately, that the building in Johannesburg collapsed where we keep the building plans and everything. Then if it has to come to this, we have to draw up new plans, but we have to know, I have an entire checklist of what documents we must have to have an overview of our scheme. You are not powerless, as I said, owners. But let me ask you this before I talk about owners. How many of you actually attend your annual general meetings? In fact, any meeting in your scheme. But that's the most important one in my mind. Do you have annual general meetings? That's also a concern if we don't have one. But we don't attend these things. We as owners, we know exactly what we bought that unit for, and we have more or less an idea what we want for that unit when we sell it. We won't always get that price, but that's a different conversation. But do we know about the financial position of our scheme? Owners, can you now, if we enter into a discussion, tell me exactly how many arrears there is? What is happening with those arrears? Is it at the attorneys or is it at the courts? Is it at the CSOS? Is there a cost versus recovering analysis from your attorney to say, Jolene, we've paid our attorneys X amount and this is the amount we recovered? Do you know the creditors in your scheme? Do you know if they're all up to date with their payments? Do you know all those things as owners? Owners, you are not spectators. You invest, we'll invest thousands, even millions, and then we disappear. We buy the units, we either stay in it ourselves or we rent it out as an investment property, and then you'll never hear of us again. But if things go south, then we're quickly there to say, but what went wrong? Who's to blame? Get involved. So we don't attend our annual general meetings. We don't really know what's going on in the budget because we just leave it up to the trustees or even the managing agent, or we just leave it in general. And we don't question decisions, or we don't provide any recommendation or nothing. We just leave it. So we'll pay for our unit $1 million or $2 million, and then we'll leave it. And then, okay, thank you. Right. Ooh, my portfolio is growing, my property portfolio. Ooh, look at me. Jolene's moving up in the world. Yes. And that's it then. And then we wonder why things happen the way they do. So where's the accountability? And this is a harsh truth. You cannot outsource responsibility of your own asset, owners. And this I call the nuclear option, the executive managing agent. Now, say we don't want to be trustees, as we know we don't want to be trustees. We don't want to not get paid, sitting constantly with challenges, making decisions 10 times a day, and nobody's interested in being a trustee. Then there's a beautiful option in the legislation. We call it an executive managing agent. It steps into the fiduciary position of the owners, about the trustees, apologies. So an EMA, in short, steps into the shoes of the trustees when nobody wants to be a trustee. There's even a provision for it in the legislation. And that is an absolute wonderful mechanism, I believe. I work with excellent executive managing agents in the country. Now, who can be an executive managing agent? I cannot be an executive managing agent because I'm an attorney. A managing agent is a managing agent, and then they can also be an executive managing agent. The Act doesn't say that if Jolene is the managing agent, she also can't be the executive managing agent. That is, of course, if I was a managing agent. But you need to pay that executive managing agent because it's normally a whole team in the managing agent scheme that's only fulfilling the role as an executive managing agent. They make these decisions that they can make as trustees, and obviously the majority of members then can sit with the executive managing agent and they make these decisions. It's taking the emotion out of it, it's taking the ego out of it, it's taking everything out of it that you cannot make a decision because you either feel important, you feel threatened, you feel complacent. So an executive managing agent is a wonderful mechanism if nobody wants to be a trustee in the body corporate. So if you do attend that thing called an annual general meeting, here is a compliance checklist that you need to look at. If you have a managing agent or an executive managing agent, they will also have this checklist for you.
Notice of the AGM to all the owners, yes, and the access the bondholders. Attendance register, our proxies. Remember, if you cannot attend a meeting, send a proxy. Anybody can be a proxy. Well, there's limitations, but majority of people can be a proxy. Please send a proxy to that meeting. Minutes of the annual general meeting, that will be circulated to you 7 business days after the meeting. That's of any meeting. The law says that. We know it doesn't always happen. And then we see minutes of 50 pages. Now, what must be in your minutes? The resolutions that we took at the meeting, that must be in it, not a he said, she said scenario. Who's the board of trustees? The new board. We elect them annually. Sometimes we get fired or removed, that's a better word, or we resign from the board. Then we can opt someone else in, or we don't have to. There must always be a board of trustees. Insurance, valuation, fidelity cover. Do you have that? What is your fidelity cover? Voting cards, your maintenance plan, levy increases. Some schemes don't increase their levies, but the service providers go up. There's even an escalation percentage in their contracts. Do you even have contracts with your service providers? Go check that. There must be service level agreements with your service providers. Interest. Is there a notice and a resolution to say this is the levies, this is the interest rate, this is what we're going to charge if Jolene's in arrears with the levy? There's signed audited financials. Is there a trustees report? This must be in your AGM pack, and this must be checked after your AGM. Do you have a Poppy and Payer manual? Should all have that by now. Is your rules registered with the CSOS and quality assured? CSOS been in existing for 11 years. I've worked there for 8 years. Then I had a short stint for a year at the PPRA. And I'm here now. But do you have all those things? Remember, information regulator and the CSOS has now said they're going to start fining us as community schemes if we do not have the rules or the manuals in place, if we've not registered with the CSOS. An interesting fact. The CSOS said in their annual reports, I think over the past few years or so, that there's about 70,000 community schemes in South Africa. Of course, the majority is sectional title developments. And only about 35,000, I stand to be corrected, has been registered with the CSOS. So that's 50% of the schemes in this country has been registered with the CSOS. So how many of those rules have been quality assured and registered with the CSOS? Like I said in the beginning, non-compliance is the name of the game in South Africa. And if we don't change that as owners, as trustees, where is it going to end at the end of the day? So let's talk about solutions. I'm all about solutions. I've listed all the problems and what we experience. So we're not talking anymore what's broken. What must happen? How can we protect our asset, our immovable property that we bought? And it's either bonded or we bought it cash, but how can we protect that? So this is my take on it. Financial control is non-negotiable, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a discussion if someone is in their arrears. I always say you get 2 types of people in arrears. I don't want to pay, or I can't pay. Now, you can work with someone that says, I can't pay my levies. I have lost my job post-COVID. I'm a single parent. I am looking after my adult children or my grandchildren. I only get a SASSA grant. Then do a payment plan and stick to that payment plan acknowledgement of debt, please. Because if the levies are unpaid, action must follow. We need to action it. Do not come to me as an attorney or other attorneys and say, oh, Jolene, Anshay is in arrears with the levies for the past 2 years. It's now almost 100,000 Rand. That's so difficult because then we need to talk to Anshay to pay it back. And I'm sure she can't pay back 100,000 Rand. And then we have to institute summers, or obviously you can go to the CSOS route. So my advice is have a hand on your arrears, 90 days. Have a 90-day credit control policy. Do you even have a credit control policy? I know I'm asking tough questions here. What does your credit control policy say? Over 90 days we hand over. Where do we hand over to? CISOs or attorneys? And then do we keep tabs on our attorneys? Or we just handing it over to Jolene and giving her carte blanche and say, oh, Jolene, just recover the money, whatever it takes. Whatever your fees is, we don't have a problem with it. Just recover the money. That's problematic in itself. You need to keep tabs on me as your attorney. What did we agree to a fee? Jolene, this is the amount you're going to charge, or we working on a contingency. What is the plan? Did you sign a mandate with your attorney? Did you sign that fee that agreement? Do you get monthly updates from your attorneys or whenever something happens? There's brilliant systems out there without singling out a one. We can report back as attorneys on that system. Do you even know who's your attorneys that's handling your arrears? Do you know where the matter is at CISOs if you handed it over? Is it an assessment stage? Where is it at conciliation? Are you waiting for an adjudication date? What is the situation? So have control over your financials in your scheme. And this brings me to another financial element. This is my second tip. Detailed financial analysis. Have you looked at your audited financial statements? Do you even have audited financial statements? Do you know what debts there is to the municipality? The ladies can obviously lead to a disconnection or cut-offs, and yes, your municipality can disconnect. What does your 10-year maintenance plan say? Is all your major items on there that needs to be repaired, replaced, or maintained? Insurance, I've said this so many times, and it's such a dangerous area. Do you have sufficient cover for loss of funds if the trustees or the employees, if there's any fraud or dishonesty? Do you even have that amount? Do you know about that amount? It will be in your financial statements. Can you pull up a copy of your audited financial statements right now if I ask you? Meetings must be legally valid. Invalid meetings, invalid decisions. Invalid decisions leads to unenforceable levies. Best not to run one of our multi-million rand schemes, and that's just my opinion, on a WhatsApp. Some WhatsApps, some schemes have WhatsApps, and then you get 50 WhatsApps at the end of the day when you check your body corporate group. You don't go through each and every WhatsApp. You just say, oh, it's just a bunch of fighting again. It's super important that we actually send. Yes, you can do resolutions and decisions through WhatsApp, but I'm a firm believer, rather send it via email. That's a more formal line of communication. And we are prone to miss WhatsApps because there's so many of it. Because you don't have Jolene's picking a fight with the neighbor again. So we just say, oh, I'm not going to read this one. And then there might be important decisions on it. So managing agents, you must escalate, not just administer. If the trustees in your community scheme is making unlawful decisions, you need to document it and you need to alert the owners of it. Now, yes, I know, unpopular opinion, as Jolene is saying sometimes. You will get fired because we think still that a managing agent is our slave and we are the master, because remember the previous act said that in the act. No, there's good managing agents out there that will do the right thing, that says, you know what, I don't want to work with this scheme if they're making unlawful and illegal decisions, because it's all about our reputation at the end of the day as well. So trustees, you're not in a popularity contest and your job is not comfortable. It's like my job. It's not comfortable and I don't need to be liked. We need to ensure good governance in our community schemes. That's what we're all about. The moment that you prioritize comfort over compliance, in my mind, you've already failed. So owners, you must start participating and stop complaining. If you don't attend meetings, if you don't read the financials, you are not an informed owner and you cannot complain the whole day long.
Please keep that in mind. From reactive to preventive, I say. I want you to think about your scheme right now, this instance. If something went wrong tomorrow, can you confidently 100% say, I exercised my fiduciary duty, I escalated risks, I followed the law, I acted before the crisis? Or would you say, oh, we didn't think it's going to get this bad. We didn't really think it's going to come to this. So what can you do? Educate yourself. Here's a kicker. Apply common sense. It's very, very important that we have common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Do your due diligence, especially for the service providers you appoint. Let me tell you a personal story of every year I am a professional trustee. Yes, the scheme pays me to sit on a body corporate of a sectional title development as a trustee. Every year it's for a different scheme. I normally have the largest schemes, and I am on one here in the Sandton area now. Beautiful body corporate, I'd say. And you will be surprised, a body corporate of that, there's 300 units or close to 296 units in the development. Very or no service level agreements between the service providers and the body corporate. No hold on the age analysis to say who's in debt, who's in arrears, who's not in arrears, an updated 10-year maintenance plan, etc. These things must be looked up. So step up. Your scheme needs leadership. They need trustees that to understand that they are protecting your asset. Because remember, anybody can be a trustee. They don't normally have to be owners. And I still get this question on a daily basis. So ask it, I'll answer it, and I'll give you the provision of the law. It's no such thing that the majority of trustees needs to be owners. We just want people to step up and lead. So I'm happy that a resident, a tenant, can also be a trustee, in my opinion. So do not complain if you do not participate. When I worked at the CSAS, and I've seen many of these complaints when I worked there, and I can only talk about personal experiences, that, Jolene, the rules were approved, but I wasn't at that meeting, so I'm telling you now these rules are unconstitutional. No, sir. If you attended that meeting, if you didn't attend that meeting and 75% of members voted in favor of those rules to be approved, and CSAS put their stamp of approval on it, those rules are valid and enforceable, whether you attended that meeting or not. Why am I so passionate about this industry? I'm currently doing my doctorate full-time at UCT, and my topic is the professionalization of trustees and directors in schemes, homeowners association, share blocks, sectional title developments, retirement schemes, including life rights. So what am I thinking thus far? And remember, a doctorate is a thorough research, and that is what I'm going to do over the next 2 years. And this is what I'm thinking in my mind, that if you would like to be a trustee in a body corporate, remember there's no mandatory training in terms of the STM SMA or the CSAS Act and Regulation. It just says you stand in a fiduciary duty, you can be held personally liable, but it's not to say you have to attend a mandatory training course. And I am of the view, and this is what I'm researching, that open it up to the industry, not just let the regulator train. Have training. Anybody who would like to be a trainer of community schemes in South Africa, trustees and owners, let them train any service provider. Then it can be accredited by the Community Scheme Ombud Service, the CSAS. Then there must be like a minimum hours of training to say, Jolene, you must complete at least 10 hours of training. The CSAS can then approve it and say, Jolene has done a minimum amount of hours. She can be considered to be a trustee. And remember, there's many training that's free of charge. You don't have to pay thousands of rands for it.
There's many managing agents that's doing free training in South Africa. You must just ask them. Perhaps ask your managing agent. There's a lot of institutions doing training in South Africa. VDM has got an entire training center here in Sandton. We got a cinema training room where it looks like you're sitting in a cinema where we train. We also do these webinars and it's free of charge. So get educated, get to know the legislation. There's heaps of articles online. I write a bunch of articles that gets published through various social media or the print, the newspapers or the online papers. Get knowledgeable. And I've spoken about governance. It's not always the ideal to come to an attorney when the paw hits the fan. So I've developed a product. This is the first time I'm talking about it. In months and months, I've developed this product. I call it preventative governance. It's the governance and compliance risk assessment. It's not a checklist. We look at 4 basic elements. Financial health scan. We scan the financial health of your community scheme. We look at the governance structure audits. How's your governance structure? We look at your regulatory compliance, and is that above board? And then a risk exposure report to say if you are open to litigation or CSOS disputes and applications, because many of the court cases, in my view, or CSOS matters can be preventive, can be prevented in its entirety if our governance structure is in place, if our regulatory compliance is in place, if there's a financial health scan of our scheme. Remember, there will always be arrear levies. I'm not saying that there's not going to be, but we are ensuring that we go through this and give you a fair analysis of how your community scheme is in compliance and governance. So, my final words to you. The difference between a scheme that's in ruins, a scheme that's years and years of mismanagement, ill governance, and a good scheme, a scheme that's above board, a scheme that we can rely on, a scheme that would withstand the test of litigation or CSOS disputes, is just people that's interested, that's involved, that cares about their asset, that cares about their scheme. So it's nothing, the law's not changed, ladies and gentlemen. The law is the same for all of us at the end of the day. It's how we look at it. And are we playing our part in our community scheme? That's my details. That is my email address. That's my telephone number. That is our website. Many of our presentations and our articles and our services are all on our website. You can go have a look at it. You can follow us on social media. We are on all the platforms. Let me turn on my camera. So you can have a look at all of that. I think for me, if I can drive this home for you today, the time is not tomorrow or next week or next year to leave it in the hands of someone else. What are we doing about the governance in our community scheme at the end of the day? Are we leaving it? Get those. I'm going to send you a checklist of what you need to ask right now. First and foremost, the financials. Go pull the financials of your scheme and go look at it. See if you understand everything there. You can see if your scheme is in a plus or a minus at the end of the day. Go get the rules. Is there rules in your community scheme? Go get those rules at the CSOS. Go get those rules at the managing agent if you have a managing agent. But look at it. When last did you have an AGM? Ask yourself that question. We can't leave it in someone else's hands anymore. Like I said, ask your questions in the chat. If you came late, we are going to collate all the questions. We're going to do question. You're going to ask your question. We're going to answer it, and we're going to give you the specific provision of the law. There's also great case law out there that amplifies what the law says regarding it, because the last thing we want is nobody wants to be a trustee, because if we become a trustee, the owners aren't anywhere just going to take us to CSOS or the court. No, they are entitled to take you to CSOS or the court, but what they must allege, they must prove
at the end of the day. It's very, very important. So think about it. So let's do good governance within our community schemes. I see we still have some time. If you came late, I am going to send you the presentation. We're going to collate the questions and answers. So, and please ask your questions. I'm going to give it only until today. You can email me and ask your question, just a one-liner, and we will answer it for you. Don't send me an email tomorrow or next week and say, but Jolene, remember that webinar, this is my question. Because obviously then, unfortunately, we are going to quote you, and then, because you can only have today to ask your questions for me. You can bombard me with your emails. I'm used to large emails working at the regulators. So please send me your questions if you don't want to ask it in the chat. And let's get our schemes compliant and ensuring good governance. So there's a few minutes left. I am going to open the floor and let's ask some questions. I'm also tonight on Power FM. I am talking about buildings it's in dire financial situations, what you can do about it if no one is paying their levies, etc. So please look out for me on Power FM tonight. It's at 9 o'clock, but I'll just check with the marketing department. So if there's any questions, you're free to leave now. Thank you very much. Our webinars are only an hour. We don't like going over time. So let's just engage. If you have a comment, you have a question, please do so. I can see Danita. Please unmute yourself and you can ask your question or comment or whatever you like to say.
Hi, Jolene. Thank you very much for this presentation. We're part of a homeowners, not a sectional title. We have 5 million in our core account, and I'm just uncertain about the 10-year plan, because I had mentioned in a meeting that it's possibly just having enough money to run the estate for 3 months. We need that for our three times monthly expenses, plus an amount to recover and replace all our cameras, solar systems, computers, our assets that need changing. And I was shut down in the meeting to say, no, that's not what the 10-year plan is. I'm just trying to understand what does the 10-year plan comprise?
Thanks so much, Danita. I'm going to go a step back. I am going to have specific training. It's going to be a webinar, before I answer your question, for homeowners associations. Whether you're a non-profit company, homeowners association, or a common law, you're a homeowners association. It just gets governed by different governance documentation. But shocker, as you know, there's no legislation specifically for homeowners associations in this country. Yes, the CISAS regulates all community schemes. So a 10-year maintenance plan is not compulsory for homeowners associations because it's embedded in the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act. But I would recommend you have a 10-year maintenance plan. So what is a 10-year maintenance plan? It's only looking at the items, the major items that we need to replace every year or every 5 years or 10 years, obviously, as the plans say. So it's very, very important. It must say, these are the items. What is their lifespan? This is what needs to be replaced, repaired, or maintained. So in my view, Danita, I think it's an excellent plan, even though it's not compulsory because there's no legislation, that you need to have a 10-year maintenance plan. And that is what you have to have in your 10-year maintenance plan. But we are going to have training specifically for homeowners associations, trustees, directors, depending on which HOA it is, owners, and if there's a managing agent or entire board over the HOA. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ferdi, please, you can unmute and go. I see that you are next. Thank you.
Hi, Jolene. How are you?
Good, and you, Ferdi?
Thank you very much. That was very informative.
It's a pleasure.
Jolene, I've got a question for everybody here to ponder. I come from a managing agent background, and I'm quite interested to know why we haven't put mechanisms in place, such as potentially a members organization, to try and bridge this gap between what we're seeing with the trustees basically being a point of compromise for a scheme, where the knowledge of trustees falls short, and there's no mechanism in place to really protect the body corporate as such, other than a dispute resolution body, which only steps in once you get to a dispute point. So my point to ponder here is that perhaps it's worth introducing something into this industry that is a member scheme that specifically looks after the interest of a body corporate before we get to the point where dispute arise.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ferdi, thank you for that. And you know, and members we can open it up to the floor. But it's very important that we each take accountability and ownership at the end of the day. Let's not shift to anybody else. You know, if you get the necessary training and you educate yourself and you get to know the legislation and you get to know your role and your responsibility and the part you play within your community scheme, it's already a win in my mind. Thank you. Sydney, please go ahead. We have 3 minutes left, so please unmute yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jolene, for the informative. I just want one quick question. Why is it that in South Africa, the courts take so long to conclude defaulters cases? Because currently we know that CSOs have got a backlog in terms of cases, man. So that's my question. Thank you.
Yes, it's a very important point you raise, and it's unfortunately so that the CSOS has got a backlog, and we have to understand why that is. And I've said this many times, and also the court roles. So with obviously, there's always going to be the Jolenes of this world that's not paying their levies. Either we can't or we won't. But we need a regulator or a court system that's efficient and effective that helps us resolve these disputes promptly, because the longer you take to take action against that defaulter, the longer and the bigger the debt escalates, and the less money is in the coffers of the body corporate. So with the CSOS, the backlog there's many things, but in my mind, it's because CSOS doesn't screen all the complaints at the onset in terms of whether they have jurisdiction or not, and they let it pass through to a further stage, whether it's conciliation and then adjudication. And with the court roles, there's no specific role only for that. So if you do it a summons, that goes to the court and you have to wait your turn. So that is a problem that can be addressed. But in my mind, I think if the CSOS worked within the 90 days, I would recommend it 100% because it's quick and efficient. And imagine you can get a judgment against Jolene for her arrear levies and adjudication order within 3 months. It would be beautiful, because the CSOS is the regulator only for community schemes in the country. The courts is for all, whether I've got a road accident fund claim, whether I've got a delictual claim, whether I've got any civil claim, that is for all. But the CSOS is only for our industry. Thank you. Anna, and then Sandra. Anna, please, you can.
Hi,
Thank you,
Jolene.
Sydney. You can take your hand down. Hello, Anna.
I won't be long. So, very simple question. The trustees in our body corporate, we have a sectional title. The ones that are currently on, they have like their little clique of favorites. So, like, for example, if I have a complaint or something I'm querying that requires an answer from the trustees, I either get a vague answer from them that has actually no substance to my question, or they outright ignore me. So how, as an owner, do I actually address this? Because I'm not the only one. There's a select handful of people that are being shoved to the side, and only if you fit what they are saying, it's correct. So if I say, hold up, you want to paint, but there is a boundary wall, which is a retaining wall that's going to fall over.
Yeah.
Why are you wanting to paint the body corporate when you should be fixing the wall first? And there's no money in the kitty, and the reserve fund is hardly anything. And you go and do a garden and want to paint walls. So
Now
how as an
remember,
owner do we fix that?
Now, remember, as trustees, we can go on our little ego trips. Remember, I'm the chair lady, and I will tell you what I think is best for you in your community scheme, and I'm on a power trip. And we as the trustees, we decide for everyone. You always get that. It's what we're doing about it.
Yes.
Accountability, and there's an avenue in my slide. Remember what I said, owners are not powerless. If you have
Yes.
trustees like that, that say they are the law and we must follow it, you need to impose your rights as an owner. And how do we do that? 25% of owners in the scheme can
Yes.
request a meeting, and then you can remove those trustees. But then, Sandra, you can't say, I don't want to be a trustee. No one, I'm not interested. Be involved and step up at the end of the day. But days
Yes.
are gone where we are abusing our powers as trustees. We must, and also remember, the majority of decisions in our community scheme are made by the owners. The trustees can make very little decisions on their own, and we must keep them in check and advise them of that. It's super important. But if you are a group of concerned owners and look at your participation quota and your percentage that you had, call that meeting. But you can't just say we're going to fire our board. You must give reasons why people must, because there must always be a fair opportunity for your trustees to say, right, I do apologize, I'm sorry, or I'm going to correct it. You must give reasons. So I think that's
Yes.
very, very important. But you cannot leave it because it might escalate. Next month, say I'm your trustee and we enter into an agreement with a solar company, and there's millions on the table, and the solar company liquidates and the whole scheme is going down, and you just said now there's almost no reserve. So then the S word comes in, special levy. We don't want special levies. So your 10-year plan must be tied to your reserve funds, and we must control that money and do not spend on luxuries. If there is dam, do not build a swimming pool. I know it's ridiculous, but it happens.
Yes.
It happens. So please keep your trustees in check, but also don't just blame and accuse. Try to talk to them, because remember, you need to resolve your internal remedies before you go flood the court rolls or the CISOS roll with your dispute. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks.
Audrey, you can unmute and ask your question. I think then it's 11:01, ladies, or 11:02.
So,
ladies and gentlemen.
thank you, Jolene. This will be very quick, although I've put it in the meeting chat. On special levies, I want to know, is there a term for every special levy? And I need to know, where is this money held? And can one request a statement of the special levy funds at any time to monitor spend and interest?
Thank you so much for that question. So we are talking about the S word now. So say there is a special levy in your complex. Now there is criteria for a special levy. It means it must be urgent and it must be unbudgeted. And of course, it's part of the financials. There will be a line item to say, and there must be a reason we are implementing a special levy of a 5,000 Rand per homeowner or unit owner, because we need to address rising damp, and there is no money in the coffers. Then it filters down. But why is there no money in the reserve fund? Do we have two separate bank accounts, one for day-to-day and one for reserves? And is there a 10-year maintenance plan? And why wasn't it on the 10-year maintenance plan? And why is it urgent and unbudgeted? Why wasn't it in the budget? I'm not talking about a burst pipe or sewerage going down the block. That is urgent and unbudgeted for. I understand that. But many things can be budgeted for in your 10-year maintenance plan. Last questions, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to keep you. I thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of the training. And please ask your question today if you want it in the Q&A document we're going to collate. Vania, please, the floor is yours. Last question. If you can unmute. Vania, you can unmute. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for giving up your time to listen to. I think that it's super important as how we think and what our actions are within our community schemes. Like I said, send the questions. We'll collate it, and thank you so much. And we'll also include the presentation when we send it out to all of you. And I thank you so much for your time here today. My name is Jolene from VDM Attorneys, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Tá,